Hello everyone, welcome to Star Flag Media. This is part 3 of our Nintendo Gamecube collection guide and review. My personal collection of games that I played throughout the years and actually owned, and my thoughts on them. Well, let's get right into it with our first game. Freakstyle is a 2002 motocross racing video game for the PlayStation 2, Game Boy Advance, and of course the GameCube. There are 4 levels of gameplay: the circuit, a quick race, freestyle, and free run. The game features an assortment of real-life FMX riders, which include Mike Metzger, Brian Deegan, Mike Jones, as well as professional motocross riders, which include Steffi Bow, Jessica Patterson, and Greg Albertin. This game was very good to look at the time, fun to play, had lots of courses, and great gameplay. Freakstyle gets an 8 out of 10. Gauntlet Dark Legacy is an expansion to one of my favorite Nintendo 64 games, Gauntlet Legends. This game plays similarly, but with new levels, items, characters, and combat capabilities. The player has options of performing a slow, strong, or a quick, weaker attack, as opposed to Legends, where there is only one type of attack. In Gauntlet Dark Legacy, the player can perform combos by using slow attacks and quick attacks in sequence, while engaged in melee combat. This game was a great expansion and follow-up to Gauntlet Legends. If you owned the Dreamcast port of Gauntlet Legends, elements of Dark Legacy were already in there. This is a fun game to pick up, and gets an 8 out of 10. Geist is a first-person shooter adventure game for the Nintendo GameCube and marks Nintendo's second ever M-rated game, the other being Eternal Darkness. The gameplay features you as a disembodied spirit named Raimi. Raimi cannot interact with the physical world except through possessions. He can possess objects, people, even animals. There are many checkpoints and boss fights and tons of cutscenes to be had in this. Geist was one of those experiments that was kind of a mixed bag. Some elements were amazing and others were definitely experimental. It's a fun game to pick up. Geist is a 7 out of 10. Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee is a fighting game based on Toho's Godzilla franchise. As the player, you take control of one of 11 giant monsters. The player must defeat their opponents via punches, kicks, and limb attacks. Each monster can use their signature beam attack and throw environmental objects. Army forces and the monster's Hedorah are also present and sporadically attack all the monsters. Extras include power-up orbs, which provide additional health, energy, unlocking finishing moves, or summon Mothra for an airstrike. Extra features include choice of several locations and a destruction mode, in which players complete to destroy buildings in a city, and melee mode, in which up to 4 players can complete simultaneously. This was a fun surprise, and Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee gets an 8 out of 10. GoldenEye Rogue Agent is a first-person shooter video game in the James Bond franchise, developed by Electronic Arts. The player takes the role of an ex-MI6 agent who is recruited by Goldfinger to assassinate his rival, Dr. No. Several other characters from the Bond franchise make appearances throughout the game, including Pussy Galore, Oddjob, Xenia Onatop, and Francisco Scaramanga. Despite being part of the larger James Bond franchise, this game has no relation to the 1995 film or the 1997 video game of the same name. Trust me, this was a bait and switch. They added the name GoldenEye because the character has a golden colored cybernetic eye. Skip this game. It gets a 6 out of 10. Ikaruga is a vertical scrolling shoot 'em up. This game features 5 stages, 3 levels of difficulty, and supports single player or 2-player cooperative mode. The player pilots the Ikaruga fighter, moving to avoid obstacles and other danger. This game was developed by Treasure and is bullet hell. It came out in arcades in 2001 and later was ported to the Sega Dreamcast in Japan. By 2003, the Gamecube got its port, and this game is widely regarded as one of the best games ever made, especially in the shoot 'em up genre, and is one of Treasure's greatest works. This game is difficult, but if you want a great shoot 'em up, you cannot go wrong with Ikaruga. This game is a 9 out of 10. James Bond 007 Agent Under Fire, developed by Electronic Arts, was originally supposed to be a game based off the 1999 Bond film The World Is Not Enough. However, the game was delayed and eventually reworked into Agent Under Fire. Trust us, if you look at the cover art of this game, it is sneakily suspicious looking to Pierce Brosnan. Agent Under Fire features over 15 different types of firearms as well as other weapons. It was an okay game, and if you were thinking that this was going to be the next step from GoldenEye or Perfect Dark, you were sadly mistaken. Still, a competent first-person shooter from Electronic Arts. Agent Under Fire gets a 7 out of 10. James Bond 007 Nightfire is the follow-up to Agent Under Fire. In this version, Electronic Arts corrects a lot of the mistakes they made with Agent Under Fire. Firstly, the game uses the likeness of James Bond actor Pierce Brosnan, although the character is voiced by Maxwell Caulfield. Nightfire features 2 game modes for use, single player and a multiplayer mode. In the single player mode, players can complete a set of objectives which requires navigation around each mission and level dealing with hostiles and making use of gadgets. Completing a level is done by completing all objectives and reaching the level's exit goals. Multiplayer mode focuses on players battling each other with AI bots across a variety of stages. While some stages are based on levels from the game, others are based on settings and fictional locations based on the James Bond films. Overall, Nightfire gets an 8 out of 10. Killer 7. Originally one of the big 5 that Capcom was going to bring over to the GameCube as an exclusive. The game was written and directed by Goichi Suda and produced by Hiroyuki Kobayashi, and it follows an elite group of assassins called the Killer 7. The assassins' physical manifestations of a man named Harmon Smith perform hits on behalf of the United States government. Though these missions, Killer 7 uncover a deeper conspiracy regarding the role of Japan in US politics and secrets about the nature of their organization. The player battles enemies called Heaven Smiles in first-person view. Heads-up display on the left indicates the player's health. The eye weapon charge level numbers of vials and thin blood and the amount of collected fake blood. This was a strange game at the time, but it was beautiful to look at. Killer 7 is a 9 out of 10. Legends of Wrestling is a professional wrestling video game developed and published by Acclaim. This game featured a lot of unsigned WWE talent at the time, after the collapse of both ECW and WCW. So we've got Hulk Hogan in here, Bret Hart, RVD, Terry Funk, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, Jerry Lawler, and the Legion of Doom, amongst many, many others. The problem is, this game was still developed by Acclaim, who didn't have the greatest track record when it came to making wrestling video games. This game was an alright attempt at a wrestling video game, and the best thing about it, honestly, was the roster and some of the animations. The Legends of Wrestling game gets a 6 out of 10. Well, we're about halfway through our list today. So far, we've seen some amazing games and some personal favorites of mine, like Gauntlet Dark Legacy. Let me know in the comments what you guys like so far. Legends of Wrestling 2 is the follow-up to the Legends of Wrestling game. Again, we're going to see some legends come in here that are not available to play on other games, such as Bruno Sammartino or Roddy Piper or Scott Steiner at the time. With this one, the career mode was a little bit different. You can explore and play through different territories, but some characters wouldn't be able to do certain storylines. For example, if the player decided they wanted to use Jerry Lawler, the only storyline that he can play is in the Southeast region, and it's based on the famous feud Lawler had with comedian Andy Kaufman. The game also features a Create a Legend mode, and players can create their own custom-made characters which can be used for storyline as well as exhibition play. This game was a little better than the previous year, and still a 6 out of 10. The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker is a open-world action-adventure role-playing game. When it debuted, it had some controversial reception from the audience, as they weren't expecting a toon-like cel-shaded graphics. The Wind Waker's cel-shaded art made use of real-time lighting and effects, depth of field blur, and making the game look stylistically similar to an actual Saturday morning cartoon, and setting apart from every other game in the series. This game is my personal favorite Zelda game. I have completed it multiple times, and if you have a Wii U, they remade this in high definition. This game is a gem, and is a 10 out of 10. The Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers is one of Electronic Arts' hits for the 6th generation of gaming consoles. It's also, surprisingly, one of my favorite games of the generation. A lot of the game is just hack and slash action game, based in a third-person perspective, and the game features levels taken either directly from scenes in the Fellowship of the Ring and or the Two Towers films. For example, the levels during the defense of Helm's Deep is probably my favorite, and you get it early on, but it's very similar to the corresponding scene in the film. What I really enjoyed was the seemingly easily transitions from full motion video into the video gameplay. The Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers is a solid game, and is an 8 out of 10. Lost Kingdoms is a 2002 action card-based role-playing game. It was published by Activision, and the game was released in Japan in April and North America in May. The story begins with substance known as in the game as Black Fog, and this fog is known for consuming people, towns, and other signs of civilization or life. Nothing ever to escape from within. The Lost Kingdoms, the fog invades the land of Arguil, and the home of the main character Katya, who is also known as the princess of this kingdom. Lost Kingdom is best known for its unique system of combat, and battles are played in real time where the player has to keep their character moving to avoid enemy attacks and plot which cards to use in the battle. Lost Kingdoms is a great game and had a follow-up, Lost Kingdoms 2. It is a 7 out of 10. Mario Kart Double Dash is a kart racing video game in which two players race in a kart against other two-player teams in 16 different courses. Like in previous installments, players pick up item boxes to receive a randomly selected item and use it to impede the opposition and gain the advantage. Some items such as shells and bananas allowed players to hit others and slow them down. Two characters are selected to race together in the same kart. This is very different from any other game in the series and has yet to be duplicated. One is assigned to driving, while the other is assigned to using items and holding items. The players can switch their positions at any time during the race. and creates for a great dynamic. Mario Kart Double Dash is a game that I wish they went back to as far as the 2 players on 1 kart dynamic. And to me, it is one of the best racing games of the entire generation and gets a 10 out of 10. Medal of Honor Frontline is a first-person shooter video game developed by Electronic Arts. The player character is Lieutenant Jimmy Patterson from the American Office of Strategic Services. Frontline takes place during the events of the first game and chronicles Patterson's journey as he fights his way across Europe into Nazi Germany during World War II. This game was probably the pinnacle of the Medal of Honor series, as we know that a lot of the developers of this later went on to form Infinity Ward. This game is a great addition to any first-person shooter, and a great storytelling, especially in the World War II era. You had nothing like it in this generation. Medal of Honor Frontline gets an 8 out of 10. Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. Serving as a remake of Metal Gear Solid in 1998, the gameplay of Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes was altered to resemble that of Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. While all of the original areas and enemies were kept, new ways for the player to combat them were introduced, such as the ability to shoot from a first-person view. Enemy AI was improved, giving enemy soldiers the ability to communicate with each other and detect the player more intelligently with senses of sight and sound enhanced. Also backed up by the power of the Gamecube at the time, the graphics were greatly improved and looked well above what we were used to in the Metal Gear Solid series up to that point. The entire English voice cast was kept to recut scenes and re-record dialogue. This game is a masterpiece, and if you like Metal Gear Solid, you have to pick this up. This game is a 9 out of 10. Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, also known as Mortal Kombat 5. Like all Mortal Kombat games, Deadly Alliance focuses heavily on its fighting modes. The gameplay is completely different from that of its previous entries in the franchise. Each character now possesses 3 individual fighting styles, generally a 2-hand combat style with 1 weapon style, and which players can then switch between with the push of a button. In previous games, aside from a dial of combos, all the characters fought virtually identical, with only special moves to differentiate between them. The number of special moves per character has also been reduced, varying only from 2 to 4 at most. This game was a departure from the series, but is known to have revitalized the Mortal Kombat franchise. Very fun, tons of gameplay. Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance is an 8 out of 10. Metroid Prime is a 2002 action-adventure game developed by Retro Studios and published by Nintendo. This is the first time we get Metroid in a first-person shooter type game. It was such a huge departure and people were very nervous, but as soon as we got our hands on this game, we knew we were in store for a treat. The visuals still hold up pretty well for a game this old, and was a masterpiece at the time. Beautiful graphics, great gameplay, tons of exploration. Metroid Prime was a standout hit. This later came out on the Wii with pointer controls, and again for the Metroid Prime re-release remaster on Nintendo Switch in 2023. If you have a Switch, pick this game up. It is gorgeous. Metroid Prime gets a 9 out of 10. Metroid Prime 2 Echoes is the follow-up to the already smash hit Metroid Prime. The story follows bounty hunter Samus Aran after she is sent to rescue the Galactic Federation Marines from a ship near Aether, a planet inhabited by a race known as the Luminoth. she discovers that the troops were slaughtered by the Ing, a hostile race that came from an alternate dimension of Aether. Samus must travel to 4 temples to ensure destruction of the evil Ing, while battling them, wild creatures, space pirates, and her mysterious doppelganger, Dark Samus. This game just adds more to the already beautifully pleasing to the eye Metroid Prime series, and is a must-have. This game also had a multiplayer mode that could have really been something special had they developed it further. Metroid Prime 2 gets a 9 out of 10. Well, there you have it. Some of my absolute favorite games have made it onto this week's guide. I've gotta say, Metroid Prime 2, Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker, there's some real bangers in this list. Let me know what you guys thought of this week's list, and what did you guys think about the reviews? Did I grade them too high? Did I give them too low a score? Let me know in the comments. As always, please like, share, and subscribe. And I am Anthony here with Star Flag Media, and I'll catch you guys next time.